Welcome back. In today's panel, we are joined by Kat Warboys, Senior Director, APAC Marketing from Hubspot, as well as Tan Gan Hub, Vice President, Marketing, Loyalty and Partnerships from the Ascott Limited, as well as Hayley Monteiro, Head of Media Implementation from Omnicom Media Group Australia, and they'll be discussing how centralized data drives better business growth for marketers. With that, over to you, Miles.
Hey, thank you, Jazz. Look, if you've chosen to tune in to our panel today, I'm guessing we're not going to be telling you anything you didn't know already. It tells me that you've been in a room as a marketer, maybe sweating as you try to prove your ROI to management. You're hoping that they will ask you for the numbers that you have and not the numbers that you don't know how to find. Look, we have a fantastic panel for you today where we are discussing Unify to Amplify, how centralized data drives business growth for marketers. If there's one thing I hope you'll learn from today, it's how to build a data foundation that will let you drop the data guilt and start feeling supported by your own data. To do that with me today, I'd like to firstly introduce our panel, and I'll pass over to Kat. Kat, I do have one question for you, maybe a quick introduction. And I'd like to better understand, how would you describe your relationship with data?
Oh, that's I better be careful here. maybe like a co-pilot, it's definitely there to help stress test my theories, help me find opportunities, query questions I might have. But it's my experience that I think brings the context and helps, I decide, and layer in what I think is important and what metrics to focus on. Although I have to say, I think AI is absolutely changing the game here and is layering in a lot of the context now. So who knows, maybe it'll become an unhealthy codependency in the future.
Thanks, Kat. Unhealthy codependency. We'll take that one. Hayley, over to yourself. How would you describe your relationship with data?
Oh, I think I'd describe my relationship with data like an arranged marriage, to be fair. I think at the start, you don't really know what to expect and you kind of feel like it's slightly overwhelming. But I think over time, you kind of learn how it works, you know how to navigate it, you know how to influence it. And then I think at some point, you kind of also start to anticipate like the patterns and insights even before it emerges. So I think for me, it's kind of like a journey from uncertainty to actually understanding and then to a full-blown relationship.
Thanks for sharing. I love the analogy. And Garnup, yourself.
Yeah, I'm the same as Hayley. I think it's a hate-love. The first thing you do is you find out there's so much data, you get so overwhelmed. But as you start to make sense of it, everything falls in place and it becomes a lot better.
Fantastic. I think we can sum that up with just, it's complicated. It's probably the best way we can put that, Des, from what I'm hearing. Look, panel, earlier today, we heard from Oti on the keynote where she walked through our 2025 marketing data report. And that was titled Insights on How Marketing Teams Are Using or Misusing Data. And look, a couple of stats to start. We asked marketers in APAC how mature they perceived their state of their organization's marketing stack to be. Just 10% described their marketing technology stack as mature, comprehensive, and fully integrated. And later in the survey, 55% of our respondents believe that better data integration would help them improve their performance and close knowledge gaps as well. But look, the majority of marketers express their enthusiasm for data. I think this is fantastic. And their team feels more proficient with data analysis than they did last year. So, Garnup, I'd really like to start with yourself. I'd love to start with Ascott's journey. You've navigated unifying data across the globe from 14 different clusters. Could you share a little bit about what that journey looked like and where you are now?
Sure. We've been on the journey for about two plus years now. To give some context, I think the Ascott Limited, we have about 1,000 hotels worldwide, and we're in about 40 countries under 14 brands. So from the start, we love collecting data. And at the same time, it's so fragmented. We have our member CRM, we have our sales CRM. Because we're a hotel, we have property management systems, which is more than one. My marketers use Google Analytics, my website and my app teams use Adobe Analytics. So the tech stack is complex and complicated. And there's so many dashboards that were created and the data from each of these dashboards sometimes don't gel. So we started from quite an interesting situation whereby I think my marketeers were spending about 60 hours trying to stitch fragmented data together so that they can get a comprehensive result from every campaign, just to evaluate the campaign effectiveness. So the same thing, I take the data and I go speak to my app and web team. They look into, marketing team for us actually looks into booking data. Our web app team looks into what we call materialized data. My loyalty team looks at checkout data. So all the data don't gel. And sometimes they don't even speak the same language. So it's really quite complicated. So, but at the same time, we've started recognizing that it's very important to have a unified so-called language. At the end of the day, hospitality is really about the experience. So travelers today really want brands to know everything about them. I mean, your preferences when you come, your past day where you've been, and probably even your favorite pillow type or your scent in the room, right? So I think with all the guest data scattered across multiple systems, it was very tough for us to centralize it. So like I said, we've been on this journey for about 2 years. But with unified data, and we've been lucky because it's been painful, we're now able to actually look into when a guest stays in the cities in Paris or when they're in Somerset and Bangkok, we can actually really now start to tailor communications. I know where you've been, I know what brands you like, and then I can tell you, hey, where should you go next? And actually, what you may actually like when you travel with us. I think for us now, we know because we tag everything. If a guest has shown preference for family-friendly options, or if you like bigger apartments, we can now actually almost automatically actually recommend a service apartment with the correct room types. If I know that you have kids, I can recommend you to hotels with actually kid-specific options, for example, playrooms, theme rooms, and actually even laundry credits, for example. So that actually you become a lot more loyal to the company. I think this is something that, this is a level of personalization that actually we are starting to expect. And at the same time, this level of personalization increases engagement and the customer lifetime value. At the end of the day, all we want is our guests to feel known, appreciated. Then at the same time, actually for my marketing colleagues, what we're trying to do is also shift towards omni-channel engagement. You kind of, you search on your mobile, you look through Google, then you go out down Meta, you get served certain ads, then you look at, maybe you do your booking on the desktop, you chat with the operations on WhatsApp, but then you leave reviews on another platform. So at the end of the day, it's really about actually our brand voice and being able to send a consistent message across any of these channels and any of the touch points. So for us now, with a centralized so-called data point, we're able to create a single content and campaign strategy. So, and what we can do is adapt it to every single channel, but at the same time, it pulls from a single source of truth. I think based on for our campaigns, what we can then actually look into is to improve the ROI and then allocate our resources so more efficiently. I don't know any company with unlimited resources. Mine definitely does not. I always wish I had more money to spend. So I kind of need to use it a little bit better. In my last campaign, actually, we realized that, for example, Meta spend had a much better ROI. So what we could do then is to cut certain underperforming channels and then shift the spend into Meta. And then for that campaign, the ROI increased by about 20%. So at the same time, what we could then do is, I've got 14 clusters spread out of 40 countries, share this with my cluster teams and get them to also then tweak. Because then unifying data for me actually has one key benefit that's very often overlooked. Because marketing really doesn't operate in a vacuum. So how
I like that last phrase I might pick up on there for you as well, was marketing doesn't operate in a vacuum. And it sounds like yourself, like other businesses, have more data than ever. You've managed to bring this together, which is fantastic, but there are still some people out there who are struggling to actually use it effectively. I might throw here a recent research conducted by Hubspot found that less than 20%, apologies, of marketing leaders in APAC were able to unify their data across accessible platforms to make it available for all teams. Surprisingly, this is even lower on the B2C side, and I found that an interesting fact. Kat, if I throw to you just on the HubSpot data, why do you think this number is so low?
Yeah, for sure. And firstly, wow, GanHub, that sounds like you're doing some really incredible things. So credit to you. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. That's awesome. Very impressive, though. I also love the comment that, marketing doesn't operate in a vacuum. I completely agree. But sadly, as that research stat that you just shared, often it does for many organizations. And I think why is, when we take a look at what's happening, is we often see that data is really viewed as a function of the marketing team rather than a larger organization priority. And that research you mentioned, just to further illustrate this, when we looked at our Singapore respondents specifically, a whopping 76% of them said that they're confident they have a comprehensive understanding of their customer. So marketers feel like they have this comprehensive understanding, but the ability to see and have that shared across the organization is not there. And, to an extent, I think that's probably right. Marketers have over time gotten very good at being data-driven and stringing together all of their channels and interactions within their world for the customer. So being able to, connect a website visit from a paid ad to social engagement and, email insights. And I think as a result, marketers, to their credit, have gotten very good at celebrating their wins, but at a campaign level. So we know how many leads we've generated. We know the cost per lead. We know which ad variant performed better on which channel, which is all great. But I think where the gap is really coming in is, one, is that data and that insight being used by other teams like sales and customer success. But importantly, if we keep speaking about the campaign level, we're really missing the gap and the opportunity to speak more at the business level. So speaking the same language as sales, and importantly, your CFO, especially when it comes to budget time. So, the campaign metrics are so important. They're wonderful. They make our marketers, experts at their trade, and we get better results for doing that. But can you really say how much revenue your campaign has driven? And if you can, because you've got your attribution model, does sales see it as well? Do they believe it? Does it show up in how they interpret their metrics and their pipeline? That is so important. And it's not happening enough, which is what we've seen in the data. And unfortunately, having this fragmented view of data makes, really hinders marketing's ability to show profitability, but as well as some of those other downsides that I completely agree with GunHub, which is poorer customer experience, not to mention the source of that tension that exists between teams when somebody's saying, well, I'm seeing that you contributed this, but I'm seeing this number. So it's a real issue. And I think marketers are doing a great job, but we need to zoom out and really understand where else that data is going and how it's benefiting other teams as well.
Kat, great points. Hayley, it might be a good idea to bring you in here with your work at the agency. How is fragmented data impacting marketing teams today, do you feel?
I think for us as an agency, I think it's an even bigger challenge, because we're not just working with like one client or one company. We're actually working across multiple clients, multiple companies, but they all have their own tech stacks, measurement frameworks, and preferences. Now, the other thing is also our clients and brands, they are not short on data. We are not short on data. In fact, we're kind of drowning in it. We are, though, starving for insights, or our clients are starving for insights. And I think the real challenge is making that data actionable and aligned across platforms and teams, because to Ganap's point earlier as well, we're working in silos, right? Because we've got all these different platforms, we've got all of these different campaigns that we're running, but we're working in silos and we're looking at that data in silos. And that is where we as an agency come in and help make sense of it all. So I think for us as well, as a media agency, our role has evolved. So we're no longer, or we've just moved beyond just buying ads. We're no longer just that. We're actually helping our clients build smarter data systems that actually make sense of their marketing investment. And it makes their marketing more relevant, more efficient, and more trustworthy. because it's whether it's you're getting your, insights from your first party data, or if you're turning complex, like say tech, into clear results, we are your data strategists, and when as much as we're like your media planners and your activation specialists. So for us, fragmented data impacts us on like a few different levels, because we are the performance agency and we're kind of brought in to enhance the performance for our clients, for their brands. I think what we quickly realize is that there is a lack of centralized and clean data. Like I said earlier, every channel is optimized in isolation. So it's a Google versus a Meta versus a TikTok. And no one actually has a view of what is actually driving business outcomes, to your point earlier, Kate. Like, we don't have that full view, and we're not actually aligning it to business outcomes anymore. It's very campaign specific or very channel specific. And I think at that point, when you look at it, attribution kind of becomes guesswork. Your strategy kind of becomes reactive. And to some point, I think reporting can be looked at like a very defensive exercise instead of actually being a growth driver. I think also fragmented data for us, it's really hard to scale insight, because when you have people working across multiple clients, working across multiple brands, they're spending a lot of time manually digging into that data and trying to clean up that data just to get to a baseline, when you can be using that time much better to actually be optimizing your campaigns and kind of uncovering strategic opportunities. And I think that's where, for us as a business, as an agency, we're not just optimizing campaign performance, or it's not just about campaign performance for us. It is about consulting with our clients to understand their complete data architecture. And we actually bring in our data specialists within our agency, so Tracken and Analect, because they help our clients map, unify, and activate their data from the start. Because if you've got like a shared, let's say, source of truth, everything gets easier. Like, your reporting is automated, your optimizations are smarter, but also you can finally start to connect your media investment to actual business outcomes. So you're not talking about metrics like clicks and traffic anymore. You're actually talking about real revenue impact. So I think for our centralized data, it doesn't just help marketing, but it also helps us have better and more credible conversations with our clients. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to talk to my client about, oh, this ad performed better. I'm actually going to talk about how a particular strategy drove X value in terms of your business or profitability. And I think that's what our clients want to hear as well.
Yeah, Hayley, I hear you on that one. We were talking about the concept earlier about data architecture as a service in terms of how you're evolving. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sorry, was that for me?
Hey, it was Hayley. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
we're talking about that evolution, moving away from clicks that you were talking about, and moving towards data architecture as a service and what that looks like.
Look, I think we've come along. Let's just say over the years, we used to work in like, say, 1 or 2 platforms, and now we have multiple channels and platforms that we work in. Back in the day, maybe our campaign briefs used to be, you want to drive X number of traffic, or you want to reach a certain number of clients or customers or whatever it is. And I think that conversation has passed way further, and we're talking about actual volume or actual value, and profitability. And that's where you actually have to talk about your data architecture, because it's not just about your clicks or your impressions or even your CPCs for that matter. It's actually talking about profitability and revenue. You're looking way beyond what you're just getting within the platforms, but you're also looking at full customer journey. Like I think Ganap mentioned earlier, you're looking at customer lifetime value. So it's not about one client coming in, clicking on your ad, doing something, and then going away. You want that client to be on your, on your Rolodex, let's just say, for a lifetime. And that is where that data architecture piece comes in. We've got our specialist teams like Analect, Tracken as well, that help our client actually build that full customer journey. Because again, when it comes to marketing and media, we look at, bottom funnel, we look at top funnel, and it's just about how do we bring all of that together and how do we engage with that audience through that journey.
Agreed, Hayley. Let me give you, sorry, Kat, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to jump on and something Hayley said, which I think is so is good to cover because we hear it a lot at HubSpot. But when you talk about the tech stack and the infrastructure design, you said, gosh, we use so many today. And I think people get really tripped up on how many tools they have. And for sure, I think that has ballooned in recent years. I don't necessarily think it's bad as long as all the tools are connected. If each system and application in the business is serving a really valuable purpose, it's helping solve for a particular objective, that's awesome. It's about, is the data flowing back to that source of truth? Yes. And I think people lead with we must reduce the number of systems, and there's definitely advantages to that, less subscription costs and all of those things. But I feel like everyone's always looking for a magic number of what that tech stack design should look like. And I don't think it really exists, or I don't think it needs to. It's more about, is it connected, and bringing all that data back to one place. So a lot of the examples we've heard already are actually possible.
Agreed. And that data, just to dive in there with some stats, look, Supermetrics, we're in a pretty unusual position where we process over about 15% of global ad spend. And I can tell you, as Oti did earlier, that's 230% increase in the amount of data that is now coming through since 2020. But it isn't just because I believe marketers are looking at more channels than ever before, as you were speaking to, Hayley. It's also because things are getting a little bit more granular. And here's the thing, I just want to put a hypothesis out there, and maybe Kat, if I could get you to react to this one. If you're simply pulling and gathering as much data as you possibly can, you might be doing yourself a disservice because of two reasons. One, you're making the data too granular to capably analyze facts and take action. That's my first point. And then secondly, you're getting data in such a way that it really can't be aggregated correctly, and you won't have the correct style of information needed for accuracy. Thoughts there, Kat?
Yeah, sure. So a top line question there, are we becoming data hoarders? It's a very good question. And I think this space is constantly in flux as well. So I find it helpful personally to ground, I guess, my thinking and understanding about data in terms of one, data access. So to your point, what are we collecting? What are we, or where is it being stored? Who can access it? Who's using it? And then second is that data action. So what are we doing with the data? Are we leveraging it? Are we using it to improve the experience or improve the insights in our campaigns so we get better results? So data access and data action. On your question, if we're becoming data hoarders in that access space, I actually think it's kind of flipped in the last, decade, 15 years, certainly back when I was working in agency and working with clients in this space. We were data obsessed. And just 13 years ago, we would collect anything and everything like that. I remember it very well. To the point where we didn't even know why we were collecting things. It was just what the client wanted to do, is to have data. But I think over time, it was like, we haven't really done anything with it. Fast forward to today, and I don't think we are data obsessed enough. Like I think we actually have lagged a little bit. Maybe we were jaded by the fact that we didn't do much with our data. But I think with what AI is now able to unlock for us, we should be absolutely obsessed with data. The whole strength of AI is its ability to take large volumes of unstructured data and structure it and make sense of it and make it leverageable from the business. And this is, a real shift. I think many organizations will resonate this when I say, for a long time, it really felt like only large organizations with armies of data scientists were the ones that could really execute. But I think AI is shifting the gears here. So even a small team can get quite mighty with that data. So I would encourage maybe not hoarding, then you definitely want there to be a goal behind what you're collecting and why you think that'll be useful. But I'll definitely encourage it. And I've got a couple of examples of how AI is helping us take, some of our data strategy to the next level in what, really the cornerstone foundations of marketing, which is 1, targeting, and 2, personalization. So on the targeting front at HubSpot, my revenue marketing team's, primary objective is to help sales connect with the best fit prospects and to help them prioritize all of their prospects and who should they work first, right? And we think about best fit in terms of literally fit. So are they in our ideal customer profile? Are they the type of customer we know we can help? And then do they have intent? Because they can be the best customer on paper, but if they are not feeling the pain points that we solve for, if they are not looking to change systems, then it's probably not going to happen. So it sounds wonderfully simple, right? You know, you need to find the best fit and the intent, and that's, you know, who you're going to buy. It's not. I wish it was. We're a complex organization. We have many products that solve for different types of personas. We sell to new customers and existing. We serve the, you know, smaller end of the market, the upper end of the market. It is complex to help sales, you know, find in all of that. But AI is definitely changing things. So if you think about the way marketers used to solve for this, it would be through lead scoring models. And I have definitely built my fair share of lead scoring models in my career, and it is time intensive. It is manual. You've got to do all the research in your data to try and identify what does best fit and intent mean. Then you set up the scoring model and you test it, and then you get some feedback from sales, and it's months of work and not always super accurate. But I think AI is absolutely enabling us to do this overnight. So able to look at your historical data to forecast outcomes and trends and automatically identify who to push to sales. So, you know, that's targeting. But if we think about that, you know, that criteria I suggested, sometimes we can have the best looking customer, but they don't have intent. What do? We enroll them into a nurture. We want to be top of mind. We want to continue to add value, to educate, so that one day when they are ready, we are high on their radar. And so our incredible email automation team at Hubspot did some experimentation, leveraging AI to improve personalization. You know, I know a lot of marketers get frustrated of really being able to reach that level of sophisticated personalization. I think our team did a really good job here. So when somebody first comes to Hubspot, when they fill out a form, sign up to come on to hear communications from us, we take a look at that business URL. We understand, you know, about their website and some of their pain points. We take a look at what they've done on our own site. What have they been engaging with? What might they be interested in? And this has made that first email super effective. So the goal of our first email is to introduce them to the Hubspot Academy, which is our online learning destination full of courses. That's really that, you know, trying to nurture, educate, prove that we are a thought leader. And so what we normally do for, say, a marketing persona is just say, well, the inbound marketing course makes sense at that level of personalization that we can do. But with AI gathering more of that contextual data, we can now say, well, actually, it looks like they're really struggling with their social media strategy. So we're going to recommend the social media course. And just being able to tailor the recommendation, you know, not dissimilar to how Netflix and, you know, Amazon works, really understanding your buyer and being able to pinpoint the best next step or product or recommendation for them. We saw conversion rates in that email improve by 82%. Now, it's not very often that email marketers see that kind of percentage improvement. It's very rare. It's fantastic when it happens. And that, you know, talking about, you know, impact on revenue, we know that getting people into our academy does improve the likelihood of them becoming a customer. So again, we can start to really talk about the uplift there. So, I think, you know, collect data access is so important, but it's useless if we're not thinking about data action. And there's a lot happening in this space to really leverage in terms of, targeting, personalization.
Now here, and talking about return on investment on that, look, it sounds like getting data is just half the battle from what we're talking about today. There's more of it, and you might need it in the right quantity so you can understand and use it as you're describing, Kat, to get those results. 82%, that is huge. Look, Hayley, I'd love to get your insights on how agencies are helping companies address data challenges to measure ROI and drive growth following on from that.
Yeah, I think we can all agree here, and I can confidently say that more data doesn't necessarily mean more clarity. I think at some point we're all swimming in data and we're all swimming in dashboards, because there's a really great way of all collecting that data, but then how we actually use it is just becoming that struggle. And I think even with all of that data as agencies, sometimes we actually struggle to answer basic questions on what's actually driving ROI for our clients. I think, yes, again, data overload, very clear, like a challenge, but I think also that data overload's kind of paving the way into also not having a very clear activation plan, because it's just all over the place and it's coming from various data sources, various points, various platforms. I feel like our teams, again, collecting performance metrics from every platform, every channel, the data, again, too granular, too consistent, very siloed, doesn't actually roll up into like a meaningful story. And the result is we're constantly reporting, we're busy reporting, but what are we actually learning from that data? And And I think for us as a performance agency, so we're not just optimizing campaigns, we are helping clients stitch together that full data journey or that full customer journey. So we're helping bringing together like the CRM data, the media performance, the website engagements, the conversion insights. We're bringing together all of that data to help build a measurement framework that basically focuses on business outcomes and not just on like vanity metrics. And that also helps my teams personally. That actually helps my teams with real-time optimizations that then helps to deliver those outcomes that we're optimizing towards. I mentioned Tracken previously, and I can use them as an example. So we've got an automotive client that we work with very closely, and they were kind of faced with the challenge about like fragmented data and also siloed customer data models. And so Tracken helped build this client, like they helped build them a centralized data backbone on Google Cloud. And they also helped them enable predictive analysis and advanced activation capabilities and strategies. The overall methodology kind of resulted in about a 29% improvement in cost per leads, but it also helped bring down like budget savings by about 12% because we were using certain suppression strategies across various campaigns as well. And it also helped us improve predicting sales that much more for the future campaigns. I think for me, key takeaway as an agency, you don't need to measure everything. You just need to measure what matters. Start your data strategy from the business questions, like ask the right questions. Are we growing? Are we profitable? Where should we invest next? That's really going to help. And I do agree with Kat here as well. Like AI is playing a major role in this advancement. It's making data analysis faster and easier. Something that would take weeks is now probably just taking minutes for you to do. You can find high value customers. You can understand cross-channel impact, like all that fun stuff AI is actually helping you with. But AI only works as well only if your data is solid. Otherwise, AI just amplifies that noise. So you have to be very careful that your data foundations are strong. As an agency, I think I see ourselves, we're like part storyteller, we're part translators, we're part architects. We help brands move again from just collecting data to actually making sense of it and having confidence in that data, because they can then make smarter decisions. They can prove ROI, they can prove profitability, and they can actually scale then what works best for them.
Huge thanks, Hayley. I noted down here as you're speaking, key take, if I could ask you, what does unifying and centralizing allow the Ascott group to do next? You walked us through your story at the start of the session.
Yeah, I think I agree with Kat and Hayley. We're now really aligned on ROI. It really helps me to speak to my CFO, right? At the end of the day, she's asking what's the revenue you're bringing in, and with ROI and not just ROAS, we're also aligning all the different countries that's working with me. So in some ways, actually, two things. I mean, it goes beyond campaigns, but one, real-time campaign optimization. If very quickly we can make decisions in real time. I think hotels or hospitality is very, very fast moving. We make decisions very quickly based on travel advisory. For example, if the US reacts on certain key issues, we need to make sure that actually we react quickly. Seasons change, even the weather, for example. If the typhoon happens or if a monsoon happens very quickly, we need to be able to very, very, very quickly pivot. So, I mean, with unified data now, what we can do is really check. If something's not working in Tokyo, can I check it? But it's trending in Jakarta. Okay, I can change my efforts almost immediately, shift my spend, even tweak my creative very quickly, test new CTAs, and then redirect traffic so that actually from a company point of view, we win. For example, I think in my last campaign, we saw lower conversions in some of our cities after launch. But because the system was quite connected, I could quickly just adjust spend. And then actually we saved some money. And yeah, actually the ROI actually went up. So, but I also agree with Kat and Hayley that the future is really about AI. I think AI has many different forms. We're very familiar with what I call the descriptive AI, pulling data, taking data, and actually letting data tell us what happened last year, what is the trend that we're seeing. But at the same time, it's really about the predictive AI as well as what I call a prescriptive AI. So from the Ascott point of view, what I'm trying to do is look into a prescriptive kind of AI. The future is really quite AI driven. And like Hayley said, AI is only as smart as the data is being fed. So if we look beyond descriptive AI or analytics, what we can do is actually we can use machine learning and personalize at scale. I think that's the tough part, but that's the path forward. So what we are doing internally, and I'm lucky because I do have some data scientists that's working with me, is we are building an engine to draw some data from our CRM and eventually feeding in all our GA data, our AA data, and then we can forecast certain demand and personalized recommendation. For example, if I knew that you stayed in an Ascott in Singapore, based on my past last year's data, we knew that most people who've been to an Ascott Singapore went to KL, and they've stayed at Ascott Star KLCC. So in a personalized EDM out, I would be able to tell you, hey, we found a new location for you. You may really quite like it, and here's a brand that we know you love. And then actually what we do is actually hopefully the conversion will then improve. Yeah, I think it's about proactive marketing and actually being there before the customer. And then last but not least, then the humans can start to connect again and do what humans do best.
And if you had to summarize this journey you've been on over the last 2 years, for marketers in the room today who are just getting started on that, what advice would you have?
It's tough. I think for me, it's always three things. One is you must make sure that there's cross-departmental so-called buy-in and collaboration. I think, like I said from the beginning, marketing does not operate in a vacuum. It's not just a technical or IT project. It is a company-wide initiative. You can't just say, okay, I've got all my marketeers involved and they are raring to go. If your sales, your operations, your finance, even your customer service is not on board, it fails, really. Because everybody needs to really understand the importance of data unification and then use it. So, number two, it's painful. It's really walk in with what I call your eyes open. I think like Hayley says, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have the right structure or system, you kind of need to start with that first. Because if you don't have that and you don't define the ownership, you don't standardize your data quality, you don't establish good protocols, nothing is useful, nothing is meaningful. If you want meaningful insights, you really need to actually clean up your data so that the models from using AI can generate good, meaningful insights that you can use. Governance is very key. You need to make sure that you're consistent. You look at risk, because sometimes using AI, we know generative AI sometimes just invent things, and you need to make sure you take the AI results and you still have good decision making. Then last but not least, really use AI and analytics. I really think at the end of the day, really have a roadmap. It's not just AI for AI's sake. Just ask yourself, what are you using that data for? And then help your stakeholders understand the roadmap that you're trying to build. I always laugh because my team now comes to me and say, okay, we've got a roadmap. It's a 3-year roadmap. We may veer from it, but at least we know we're moving in that general direction. Yeah.
Thanks. Hayley, as we're coming towards the end of the panel now, final thoughts you'd like to add there?
I think for me, I'd just like to add that successful data unification is much about the people and processes as it is about technology. Again, collaboration across teams, very essential. Collaboration across teams isn't just a checkbox, it's actually the foundation. Working with multiple clients, every client has their different cross-functional teams. It's bringing together your marketing, your sales, your operation teams all together, making them part of that bigger conversation and ensuring that everyone's actually talking the same language and working towards the same goals. I think also, yes, I agree. Data unification is freaking painful, but it is absolutely necessary. I think we see a lot of people rushing to implement tools or to build tools, but if your data is not clean and standardized and consistent, there is no point. So make sure that your data is actually clean, standardized before you can actually work towards different tools. Your foundations, again, need to be very strong. Again, clear definitions, good governance, security protocols, not the most glamorous part, but what makes everything work. I think the big one is also keep it simple. Start by knowing what you're using the data for. Ask the right business questions, like what outcomes are you chasing? What is the experience you're trying to deliver? And then work backwards from there, maybe, because not all data is equal. Take the time to figure out what is more high priority for you and what can be eventually automated, customized, depending on the use case you're working on, right? You don't need everything, you just need the right things. And yes, AI, definitely a game changer. Again, it's only as good as the data that it's built on. But when it's built on really clean, well-structured data, I think AI can definitely help you scale what matters. So you're finding the right opportunities, you're working with the right teams, you're optimizing spend, but more importantly, you're actually freeing up time for humans to focus on more creative, more impactful strategies and work rather than doing the manual work that we're used to be doing. So I think anyone starting on this journey, definitely keep it simple. Know what you're using your data for. Ask the right questions. Take the time to get your foundations right and focus what actually drives value for you, your customers, and their business.
Thanks, Hayley. And Kat, as we roll into the final 2 minutes of today.
Yeah, that's tough to go last after the others have given the good tips, the really strong sound advice. Definitely +1 to Hayley, sort of really starting with the business problem rather than necessarily the data or the technology itself. I think the real differentiator for businesses isn't necessarily who's going to have the most data or the best technology. It is going to be those that can translate that data into human value most effectively. So really think about, as Hayley said, your customer audience and start from there. But I guess without being repetitive on the tip and to offer something else, I always say you either need sales on your side when you want something or you need the legal team. And something we didn't even touch on today, and I know it's top of mind for many people in the data conversation, is data privacy and regulation, right? And you actually need a single source of truth to be able to manage your customer data effectively. When a customer calls up your service team and says, "Oh, I want to unsubscribe," can they action that, the service team, or do they need to go to marketing or send marketing an email and ask them to do it? That's sufficient. And if they want to know what data we have, a single source of truth actually enables that. So as the last tip, if you've tried everything, go get your legal team on your side.
Look, thank you all. Look, a big thank you again for joining us today and joining us for the panel. Look, I know I've learned plenty. And what I want to just finish in saying is thank you to Kat, thank you, Gunhope, and thank you, Hayley, for just being such a big help today and sharing your knowledge with others.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Thank
amazing.
you.
I will let you go now. Look, if there was one thing I hope you did learn from the panel today, it was how to build a data foundation that would help you drop that data guilt that we were speaking about at the top of the day's session, start to feel supported by your own data. Jazz, as a solutions engineer, how does that sound?
Yeah, very well said. I think that with the right data foundation, it's truly the game changer in helping you to bring your marketing measurement from murky to meaningful. And the moment your data starts working with you rather than against you, it can be such a game changer.
Oh, nice. Look, guys, last chance to fill out that feedback survey. If you see that button on screen at the moment, please have a last opportunity too. We will be announcing the winners very shortly. When I say very shortly, I mean in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, while we give you the next 1 or 2 minutes to fill out the feedback form, this is a great opportunity for us to introduce you to the Supermetrics community. It's a place where you can actually connect with industry experts like the ones we have on the event here today. And you can also level up your knowledge about data-driven marketing, be part of exclusive events and more. If you're one of the lucky winners from the survey challenge, don't worry because we have another challenge for you. So we'd like to invite you to also take part in our community challenge. We will be sharing the link in the chat as well, where you can actually share your biggest takeaway from any of the APAC Super Summit 2025 sessions. Feel free to give likes for the takeaways that resonates with you the most, and the post that gets the most upvotes will win a $200 gift card. Amazing, right?
That sounds pretty good to me. Look, a huge thank you again just to all of our speakers, partners, and of course you, the attendees, for making Super Summit JPAC 2025 such a success. But
before we wrap up, we have one last bit of excitement for you. We are finally announcing the winners for our feedback giveaway.
Thank you, Jazz, and congratulations to the 3 names that you'll see on screen at the moment. If you can just hold on here, we'll be in contact afterwards. Actually, I've just been told we're going to be sending out an email afterwards. And so expect that in your inbox for your prizes to come through shortly.
Yeah, congratulations to our 3 winners. With that being said, we hope you've enjoyed Super Summit 2025. As promised, recordings will be sent to you in your email inbox after the event.
Hey, thank you. And look, until next time, keep on measuring, keep on learning, and continue to grow with your data. Thank you and see you later.